Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Feature Complete, where we talk about game dev and everything related to it. I'm one of your hosts, MadChirpy.
And I'm Muddasheep, aka Philip. The topic of today is a very broad topic, marketing, and specifically marketing for video games, or indie games, I should say. Now, do we start with the definition again, or do we start with just like how we are currently marketing our video games? What do you think?
I think it's good to maybe start with a rough definition at least. So the first thing I would say is that I actually think marketing is a lot broader than people often give it credit for.
Right.
I feel like a lot of the time we only really talk about marketing as in promotion, like promotional marketing. But I do think technically the term itself is a lot broader. Now, with that being said, I imagine that we are mainly going to talk about promotional stuff today as well, or like at least a lot of it is going to be. But technically, I think you could argue that marketing begins even before that, with stuff like market research, picking a game that you actually could market, and so on. What do you think about that?
I actually wanted to talk about both sides of marketing as well. And what did you use for Shroud of Gloom, for your game Shroud of Gloom?
For me personally, one of the main things I've done, or at least the thing I've done the most consistently, which you could argue is some form of marketing, is definitely streaming on Twitch. Since I have live streamed like the majority of the development of this game. Now, with that being said, I don't think that's like the best form of marketing, to the point where I probably would say if that's your only goal, it's probably not worth it, because we're talking like still very low numbers in general compared to what I think you can get out of other stuff. As of right now, I have just done like a pretty big marketing push, and that has involved making a new trailer for the game, as well as a major demo update, and then, promoting that all across social media and whatnot. I've done a fair bit of content creator outreach. I think I reached out to around 100 creators and around 40 press outlets as well. So I think those were have been like the biggest things I've done. And then on top of that, I have done some, smaller just social media posts here and there along the way. But the conversion and so on differs a lot throughout all of these. But I think that is like the main things I would say. What about you?
I'm pretty much in the same boat, I would say. I've done some shorts and reels, which was very interesting because one of those I talked about that some people, actually there was a publisher who thought that the cover for my game was AI generated, and it was not AI generated. It was made by a Magic the Gathering artist. Her name is Marcella Boulevard. And so I used this as kind of a topic starter for this reel, and this reel kind of went viral to the point where it got even onto the front page of Reddit. And a co-worker even said, wait a minute, I recognize you on the Reddit front page. And I'm like, oh, really? So that was kind of interesting. I wanted to bring this up because you were also talking about conversion rates, right? Well, at this point in time, I only had the Steam page up, and also the demo was up as well. But the conversion in wishlist, not that big, honestly. Like it was very interesting for having a reel with that many views. It was quite interesting to see this convert slowly. Now, it wasn't really about the game itself, but the game was definitely inside of the game with the title and everything. So people actually knew what this reel was referring to, and they could find it if they wanted to. But I was still glad to have this experience. It was very cool, and I would have still done it, even knowing the outcome of that.
No, but I actually think that has a bigger impact than one might realize. The fact that, as you said, it wasn't like directly about the game.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's what I've kind of found as well. Like, for example, I had one TikTok that got almost 250,000 views, which I would consider like quite a lot. That one was similar in the sense of that, like, it also was like indirectly about my game. I was talking about the fact that I had localized the game into European Portuguese, and the fact that I got one of Portugal's like biggest content creators to play the game. And this TikTok ended up doing really well, but that was mainly because of Want, right? Because people, like, if you look at the comments, people are not like hyping up my game. They're going like, "Oh damn, so cool that Want played it," you know. Obviously, I'm not complaining about getting the exposure. Like, it's still good. But the conversion rate did end up being really bad. And I think that has something to do with the fact that the game is the side point of the entire thing. It's not like the core reason why this popped off. Which I think, personally, I think that's the reason why trailers tend to have really good conversion rates if you can manage to get a lot of views on them. Because that's one of the few places where, like, if you get traction on it, it will be specifically and directly because of your game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's true. But I also think that making a short or a reel or whatever you want to call it, specifically as a trailer for your game, isn't gonna work so well. You kind of have to wrap it into the story almost. So the game has to be on the sidelines, because otherwise people will see an ad coming a mile away. You know, when they open a short and it's like, oh my god, this feels like I'm being sold something, they will just immediately swipe it away.
Unfortunately, speaking about short form as well, I think conversion just tends to be worse in general. Like, even if you did have a trailer do really well on TikTok, you can't put your link anywhere. Like, in general, conversion is just going to be a lot worse.
In terms of other things that I did, I also started streaming, but my intent wasn't really marketing focused. I think marketing is a side effect for me for streaming.
I agree.
But for me, it's more about like networking and sharing the game. So maybe people will find some inspiration through it. I guess you can kind of say it's marketing, but streaming in general is maybe even a topic for an entire episode, because streaming is just like it helped me in quite a bunch of ways. Also, and then in return, also the game. So I think it was really important decisions that I made. And I also contacted influencers. Now, I did actually write the first 50 emails myself. And then I thankfully found somebody who I could hire here in Austria who did the rest, I don't know, another 200. But let's talk about influencer outreach for just maybe 1 minute or whatever. There is a thing that happens when you write a bunch of influencers. You will get replies, and I would say the replies are usually overwhelmingly asking you for money in terms of coverage. And I have paid some of those. I've paid some of those 4-figure amounts of money, and the return on because I just was really curious if this is going to work or not. And the return on that investment, I would say I got about 50% of what I invested back in terms of sales. So that is a really tough one, because I think, and I have not tried it yet, but I think maybe Reddit ads will work better, but I'm not really sure. In general, I think if you get a big YouTuber to play your game, it's just it is good for your game, because then maybe people see it again on Steam and they will be like, oh yeah, I remember this game from this or whatever, and they will maybe then purchase it, because there's this rule of 7 in marketing, where if you see something 7 times, you're more likely to buy it, etc.
Yeah, no, I actually think that's a good point in general, where, like, even when stuff doesn't convert, it is valuable to still think of it that way as well. Like, it didn't mean it didn't have a positive impact and that it could convert later on, as you said, like in the way that traditional ads have always worked.
I'm still glad that I tried it out, so that I kind of know, or at least that I have a kind of a I can kind of gauge how these interactions are going to go if I get another offer like this, because then I can say, okay, yeah, at this point in time I can maybe invest a little bit, but yeah, it is, I think one one of the that we talked about was an offer for, and I'm not gonna say who it was or who he got, but an offer was for like a 1 minute ad read, and it was like, I don't know. I think for me it was even higher than what you had, and it is really hard to justify something like that. Where especially if you have your own YouTube channel, I mean, not as big as mine, but maybe as big as MadChirpy over here. Then it's almost like, yeah, but I can just use my own YouTube channel, and it costs me zero. So yeah, that was a lot of learning, I would say.
But would you consider like paid collaborations on YouTube again, as of right now?
The thing is, the paid influencer videos, they always have a little bit of a side, as like an aftertaste, a weird aftertaste. Sometimes, so there was one video that I paid the influencer for, and I don't know what it was. It just, they're playing the game because they pay to do it. There's just an inherently bad feeling about it. Like it just, has this thing about the entire
I
video.
think that does come through at the end of the day, right? Because as you said, if you pay someone to play your game, they're gonna play it because of the money, not necessarily because they want to play the game. And I think an audience can kind of sense that, and I think that affects conversion as well. With that said, like, obviously, I'm not saying that no one should like ever pay YouTubers to play their video games, but I think there are some of these caveats you kind of do need to keep in mind. I also wouldn't be surprised in general if conversion actually is kind of worse than people would first imagine. Because I think it's a similar thing a lot of the time where when someone is watching like a YouTube creator play a game, in a lot of cases, your game is still the side product, right?
I would agree.
Like most of the YouTubers I watch, I'm not watching them actually for the content in the video. I'm watching them because like, oh, I'm a fan of this YouTuber and they made this video. Like the content of the video often is actually like the side thing in the video in that way.
No, I would agree. Absolutely. But yeah, again, some of the videos that were not paid were just inherently a bit more charming in a way, because they they really wanted to play this and they were happy to play it by their own accord. And yeah, I mean, I'm not saying the paid ones are bad. There was one paid one that I was really happy about. That was really, really good. I also had one where he was actually there was kind of a service provided to indie devs where he would also give you like 10 minutes of feedback at the end of the video. That was a good investment, because the game got way better after this. So you have to weigh the consequences, I guess, of each of the offers that you get.
I don't know. I feel like maybe the paid collaborations make a little bit more sense the more of a marketing budget you have. Because like for me, in my case, mine is like by industry standards pretty small, right? And like I don't have a lot of money I can directly invest into the game. And for me, I don't know. That's the way I've come to think about it. I feel like it feels riskier for me to put a big part of that budget specifically towards like creators to play the game. Maybe also because it is the thing where I might do other types of ads, say something like Reddit or meta ads. That could indirectly make another creator play the game without me paying them as well, right?
Exactly. That is the thing. Now, if you for example, release your game and then somebody, like a big influencer, plays it just because there is what is it called, social proof out there, maybe because of a big Reddit thread, or because I don't know, it is getting some kind of attention, then people are likely going to play it anyways. This is the thing that I always think about now, because if your game gets big somewhere, like a good score on Steam, or somebody recommends it to somebody else, and then the chain keeps going, eventually some big influencer is going to play it anyways, and then it starts this whole other chain reaction.
Yeah, because then other creators say, oh, this guy is playing this game now. maybe I should also jump on that train. And as you said, it can become a bit of a chain reaction.
And that is actually what I've heard. If you, I've read the blog posts by, oh my god, what was his name? There's a big indie game dev YouTuber, and basically what he said is that they are all connected. You know, all of the YouTubers are friends. Not all of them, but in this specific circle, maybe the indie dev scene. So even when a new game comes out, they will likely maybe share it on the Discord. Or
I wonder, maybe one thing we should get into before going too far into the specific strategies one can use and so on is what would you say in terms of when you should start marketing your game?
that's a good one. So there's a lot of debate about this because some people say, yeah, you should have your Steam page up as soon as you have a pixel on screen. And other people say that, no, you need to have at least, almost finished graphics. So it looks really cool and enticing and, people are actually going to wishlist it. I'm somewhere in between, but so I think it depends on who you are. If you're making your first game, talking about a game as soon as possible is a good thing because then you get feedback on your Steam page, you get feedback on your screenshots, and if you're lucky, because then you need to of course be active and share it with as many people as you can. But if you are already an established indie dev with an audience, I think it's good to keep it back as long as possible and then maybe announce the project when it is almost finished or at least somewhat finished. I think it really depends on who you are.
No, I think you have a point. I don't know if it has to be necessarily almost finished, but I think you need to be able to at least represent what the finished product is going to look and feel like.
Yes, absolutely. No, I've seen some Steam pages that unfortunately they've been put out way too early, and I've been doing this as well. Like the first commercial game that I made was Cat in Bed: The Spirit Guide, and also for a second one, Turn to Mine. I put the Steam pages up way too early, but my idea was that I really love developing out in the open. So this was basically my way of saying, you know what? I have a devlog up, a devlog blog posts and maybe devlog videos and maybe now streaming as well. And I can always direct people to, if you want to wishlist this, here you can.
No, I think that makes sense. I think I would relate to that a bit as well. I think I probably published my Steam page a little bit too early as well. Like my first screenshots was literally just screenshots from the Game Jam version of the game. And I think that's enough to be like, yeah, it was probably a bit too early. But I don't know, at the same time, it's a learning experience. As you said, it's my first game. I think it's very likely that I got some other positive outcomes out of publishing it early.
I mean, in your case, you had a Game Jam version already, and that was already out, and people played it, and they liked it, right? So you had kind of a social proof that what you had in the game was enough for people to make them want to play it. So I guess it still makes sense to have those screenshots on the Steam page.
Yeah, because I still, obviously I didn't get like thousands of wish lists, but I was getting wish lists even back then. So,
no, I think that in your case, I think that was the right decision.
No, I think it might have been.
Maybe the other thing that I also did for my game, if you want to go through the list really quickly, is in-person events. For example, I had there was a recent comics event here in Vienna, and I was also I also had a booth at GDC in San Francisco, first time in USA. So some people might say that they're going to these events to get wish lists, but I don't think I don't think you should go there to get wish lists. I think the only purpose to go there is to get feedback from players who play your game in front of you, because then you will always see things that you never thought about. This is very valuable, but you should not go there to, I don't know, expect more sales or more wish lists, because the numbers, like a physical place does not scale as well as Steam does or any other digital event does. So that is what I wanted to quickly talk about here. Did you have any in-person events for Shroud of Gloom?
I have not. I've never had like a booth somewhere or something like that. So that's not something I have had any experience with. I have been to one event, but that was as a participant or whatever, not as a showcaser. And I don't know. I think it made sense what you're saying. I feel like it's probably not the place where you're gonna like accumulate a bunch of wish lists. Maybe this is a armchair theory, but maybe another potential outcome could be some form of networking at an event like that.
Absolutely. Networking is like the top priority of these events, I would say. Networking and, of course, getting a lot of feedback.
No, I think that seems to make sense. I feel like that's what I would have expected.
Yeah, no, I'm saying this because I know some people who go to these events and they are like, oh, I only got like 5 wish lists, and I tell them, you don't go to these events to get like 1,000 wish lists. It just cannot work. Like this, the physical space is very limited. You have maybe a small booth here with 2 square meters, and yeah, even though there are a lot of people may attending the event, it's never going to have the reach as maybe a Steam event, which is maybe the next topic. Steam events for marketing are really, really good. There is a newsletter that you can subscribe. It's ran by Chris Zukowski's community, or maybe himself, I don't know. But they regularly send out these events that run on Steam, and then you can just apply for free. Mostly, I think most of them are free. And then it just, it's this hosted event on Steam, and you're part of it. Your game is a part of it, and you will just get wishlists basically for nothing, no effort at all. Do you have any experiences with that?
I have. I've been part of 2 festivals. I don't think in my case neither has had that much of an impact for me, but I think that is due to different reasons. I was initially, when I released my demo, I was in the Horror Fest, like the official Steam Scream Fest. But I personally, I don't think I actually got a lot of traffic out of that. Now, I think there's more factors to that, right? I think back then I had worse capsule art. I think the demo wasn't as good. My Steam page didn't look as polished. Like, I think I'm not saying that the fest itself isn't good, right? I think I just didn't get that much of an outcome from it. And the second one, which I think actually ends today, is the Monochropoly Festival, which is a festival for like 1-bit games and so on. Once again, though, from looking at my traffic, I have been getting a little bit of traffic from this festival, but it's definitely nothing like major. And once again, I think there's a reason for it. This one in particular was not a featured festival on Steam, which I'm going to assume in general is going to have a lot less traffic compared to something that's going to like pop up on the front page of Steam, right?
I don't think if Steam changed anything in terms of how these events can appear on the front page, or maybe sometimes less so. I think there was a change about that. I'm not really sure, but I mean, in general, I mean the monochromatic. What was it called? Monochromatic something.
Monochropoly. I think it's a I think it's a play on Monopoly. Monochropoly, or yeah, something like that.
There's I mean, I don't know. There are so many. I didn't even realize that there's so many games that fit this specific genre. But yeah, it's no. I still think that you should try to get in as many Steam events as possible, because at the end of the day, like, how much effort did you have?
Yeah, no, it's basically nothing. I applied. It took like 2 minutes. And I think that's maybe the argument for it compared to something like, if your main goal is getting wish lists, then you probably shouldn't do like physical expos and stuff, because not only does it take more time and effort, but most of the time you're going to be paying for it as well. So there's like a monetary investment into it. Whereas a digital showcase on Steam is free and takes 2 minutes to sign up for,
Exactly, yeah. And then you get maybe 100 wish lists compared to the physical event where you paid I don't know, 1,000 for a flight, and then it escalates very quickly. But I would still say that sometimes the experience and the lessons and the feedback you get in in-person events is still worth a lot.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. I think like not every venture one does is always about getting wish lists, right? And as you said, I think that's the way I see Twitch as well. Like the only reason I mentioned streaming as like as a marketing thing is because I can't deny the fact that I've gotten wish lists from people who have watched me on Twitch, right? But my intent with streaming is not like I don't start my stream going, damn, today I'm gonna try to get like 20 wish lists through stream. Because like if your main goal is, if all you care about is getting wish lists, you're probably wasting your time streaming. Like there's better things to do to like convert to wish lists. But with that being said, I think it would have been a huge mistake for me to not stream because of all the other factors, such as finding playtesters, getting feedback, like the immediate feedback from people in chat, getting ideas, and like people helping me out. I think I've become a far better programmer as a result of streaming as well. So I think there's a lot of good things about it, but getting wishlist is not the big one.
Yeah, you might say that since you now became a better programmer, so the game is better, so maybe you get more wish lists that way. So
indirectly you could argue it has had a big impact. Absolutely.
Right. And also collabs, which brings me to our next point in terms of marketing. I actually did some collabs for like collaboration with other people, like for example artists and musicians for Faith and Despair, which I think is, I wouldn't really call it marketing, which I just really like working with other people. But if those other people also happen to have an audience, it can kind of count as marketing as well. That is why I still wanted to bring it up. For example, I had a musician work with me who has also a YouTube channel, and also the artist who worked on the cover has a huge following on Instagram, and she also shared the game over there. And that is just, you still, the main focus on working with people should not be any other gain other than really liking to work with these people. But it can also work in that direction. So again, this is you have to make decisions based on what you really, really want to do. And but it is something that can work out for you. There was, for example, the people who made what is it called, Forbidden Solitaire. They were working together with another team who made, they were known for a really cool art style, or at least for cool horror games. And the other one were known for making really cool solitaire games. So they kind of made a collab, and that really helped both of them out. Did you have any collaborations for your game as well, or are you considering any?
I mean, I guess you could say I have, but I don't know if any of them would be anywhere, I get a bunch of exposure from a completely new audience in that way. But I do have a sound designer on my team, and then I've hired, I guess, 2 voice actors, technically. But yeah, I don't know if I would consider any of those as like a direct impact on exposure. Indirectly, of course, because I think it makes the game a lot better, and so on.
Absolutely, I agree.
I think maybe a better example of something like that, what's the game that there's a streamer called Atriarch who was part on the team of making a game. Get to Work, I think it's called, if I'm not
something
mistaken.
Like that, yeah. It was a guy on for what is it, roller skates.
Down on all fours, going, a very interesting mechanic. But in that game, they had like 5 or 6 different like big streamers and content creators voice act in the game. And that type of collaboration, I think, could bring quite a lot of exposure to the game, right?
That's true, yes. I think that was actually what the game developer Thomas Brush also advised to do. He would just say, reach out to these influencers and, tell them, hey, you know what, you want to be in my game? And if they agree, then they will be maybe happy to be in a game. Maybe you give them a cheat code, and the main character turns into the YouTuber, the same hairstyle or something like that. And then they might just share them out of their own will.
I do think it's probably fair to say that that's a much harder venture to take. Like if you are a unknown developer without any following, just cold emailing a massive YouTuber. Like if you reach out to PewDiePie and say, hey, I want you to voice act in my game, the chance of that actually working out is probably not very big. But as you said, I think if you can get that to work, then I think that could be a really good outcome from it. So we didn't mention festivals, which I think is a big one. But what do you think for like the general developer, the general indie game developer? What do you think is the best ways for those to, get more attention on the game, accumulate more wish lists?
Honestly, so I, like many other people, have investigated marketing, and we all start to read these blogs and start to watch the videos, and then we stumble upon Chris Zukowski's blog, and at one point, dude, I remember this moment so well. He just had one sentence in like deep in one of his blog entries, and it said, 80% of your marketing is your game. And I was just like in shock. I'm like, oh my God, how it is so obvious. It is so obvious, but I still, I had to be hit on the forehead with it. It's kind of this thing, right? And then it's like, oh my God, everything is completely void of marketing effort if your game just sucks. And so, and this is where it gets really interesting, because you also mentioned the other side of marketing, right? Where it's not just influencers and talking about it and etc., but maybe also the product itself is a huge part of it. And when should you start marketing? Well, you also said it earlier. You maybe need to start marketing your game by making the decision of what genre it is in, like what kind of target audience you have. Because, and here's the thing, a lot of people say that, when you say the term marketing, they kind of wins, and they're like, they get this almost psychic damage from the word. It's like, well, in principle, marketing is something really, really good, because you're doing people a service. Imagine you're a Final Fantasy fan and you want to know more about the next Final Fantasy. Don't you want to see those Final Fantasy ads to know about the game, right? This is something good, actually. But if somebody doesn't like the term marketing, I think it's because, and this might be a little rough, but maybe it's because the game isn't isn't something they like talking about, because it's maybe not there yet.
Yeah.
Imagine being the guy who can tell everybody about the next Final Fantasy. This guy loves marketing.
No, I mean, that is a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's the thing as well. The better your game is, or the easier your game is to sell, so to speak, the easier the marketing is going to be. And thus, you are probably more likely to enjoy it. Like, for example, if you're making a game that's incredibly difficult to even explain in the first place, like if you can't in one sentence explain what your game is, then it's going to be very tedious and hard to market the game, right? And I think, by from that, you are probably not going to enjoy marketing as much either. Now, I do still think there are certain parts of at least promotional marketing that is, tedious and not very fun compared to like actually working on the game. I have, like, just today, I think I sent out another 50 emails or so. I do admit that is not like the most enjoyable aspect of game development, but I also think that it's for me personally, it's one of those things where I guess I kind of just, I raise my shoulders and go, it's just what I have to do. It's part of the gig, right? So it's not like I hate it either. Like, I understand that it's something I need to do if I want to improve the chances of my game doing well.
Yeah, no, and I think it is worth it because all your effort into reaching out and telling people about it will result in that one person who just really really likes the game and will be really happy to hear about it. They will, I've seen it in your trailer as well, in the YouTube trailer, in the comment section, where people are like, oh my god, this looks so good. They're happy to have heard about it. So I think in sending all of these messages out, we just got to remind ourselves that for someone, this game will be like, one of the things that they really are happy about today to have seen.
No, yeah, I think that's true. And if anything, that should be quite the motivation as well, right? Like you don't like sometimes it can actually have a big impact to just get one or two new people interested in your game.
Yes.
Even looking, further than just from like a financial perspective or whatever it might be. Like as a creative venture, it's a very rewarding thing to see someone be excited or to enjoy a product you have made. And I think there's value to that, even if it's not like, oh, I got 10,000 copies sold because of it.
Yeah. So the question was what I think is the most important thing in terms of marketing for your game, right? I think, and I'm actually still learning this. Let's be honest. I've not made a 1 million game selling, a million seller yet. I'm planning on doing it, as everybody does. But I think, picking, this is so weird to say, but you have to, as you said, actually, you have to be able to describe your game in one sentence, and you kind of have to test this sentence with a lot of people. Like, for example, if you go to a game dev meetup, then people ask, hey, what are you working on? And then you tell them the sentence, and you just need to see how they react. Are they having fun? Are they confused? And I think this is one of the things, like work on your elevator pitch. And it's just really from the beginning of making the game. I know this sounds so against anything creative, really, because even sometimes you just want to sit down and make something. But if you really want to, I don't know, maybe want to make this as a full-time gig, I think it really doesn't hurt to research a little bit, research the target audience that you want to
Absolutely.
serve, and then start your game from this point of view. I don't, but yeah, what do you think? What is the most important thing?
First of all, to what you said, I think I think all of that makes a lot of sense, and I think maybe one thing that's good to point out is that if you are not pursuing this with some like commercial aspirations, or you're not trying to turn this into a full-time gig, and you absolutely hate marketing, then don't do it. Like if you don't have any commercial aspirations, well, then it doesn't matter. Like it's fine to do game development just for fun as well, right? So I think that's something that maybe doesn't hurt to state either. But I do think that if you have some commercial aspirations, or you want to turn this into like a full-time gig or something, then as you said, I think it is very important to start thinking about marketing early, even to the point where like I think it should be in your mind at least, even when you start brainstorming the idea for your game. Like, because you do need that thing that's clearly explained, it can be packaged nicely, and so on. That is one of the, it's the foundation for the rest of your marketing at the end of the day. But in terms of what I think is the best strategy for indie game developers to get the game out there, I think one that we probably haven't mentioned that I think might be one of the biggest impacts is probably making a good demo for the game.
Oh, true, yes.
Since that is something that definitely can give you a lot more exposure on the platform, on like Steam, for example. You can now have the demo in any future festivals and so on. It can give you a new marketing push where you can do like a demo trailer. It's one more place where you can reach out to creators to be like, oh, do you want to try the demo, etc. Like, I think you can get quite a lot out of making a demo, and it's maybe one of the easier ones to get some traction on. Like, I released my demo quite a while ago. I don't think the first version of it actually was that good, and to this day, it is still one of my like biggest peaks in wish lists. And it's not until now when I released a new trailer, which is, almost a full year later, this is the first time I actually, surpassed the peak of my initial demo release.
Damn, okay.
So I do think making a good demo, and then, as we mentioned as well, with like festivals and so on, I think is probably one of the better ways for small indie game developers to get some traction on the game. And of course, there's a lot of other things you can try, but I think in general, other things tend to have a bit worse conversion. It takes more work for potentially less results.
Here's one thing that the creator of Choo Choo Charles thought of. He, and I think this is really important, he thought about the trailer for the game first, basically. So he thought about trailer moments that need to be in the game so that you have a really badass trailer. I think that's one way, but it is I don't know, you have to be really careful with this, because I think you're getting further and further away from actually having fun making a game and thinking more and more about the optimum way of making like a lot of money out of this. But I still think having these trailer moments, maybe just sit down and be like, okay, what are 5 moments that would be really, really cool in the trailer, so that the trailer pops off a little bit, that I can add to my game. I think this is not a bad thing to do.
I don't think so either. I think I did this to some extent as well, where the intro pan for across the mana in my game. That's the intro cutscene when you like arrive at the mana in game. But the reason I made it initially was because I realized that I probably wanted at least one slightly more cinematic shot in the trailer. So that was the initial idea for why I wanted to make it. And then it's like, oh, I might as well put this into the game. Now, to be clear, I do think it fits the game, and I do think it increases the value of the game, but I'm very much aware of the fact that I initially made it for the trailer. So I think there is some, as you said, I think there can be some value to thinking about stuff in that way. I relate to it a lot with, maybe more so actually, with YouTube videos in general. Like, I've been making YouTube videos longer than I've been making games. And that, I would say, it's similar to me, where even the way I think about ideas for YouTube videos quite literally go hand in hand with a good title and a good thumbnail.
Sure.
Like, that's why I try to think of what could be a good title and a good thumbnail, and then, after which I start thinking about, okay, how would I make the video? So, because it's the thing where, like, you could have the best game, or in this case, YouTube video ever, but if the thumbnail and the title sucks, no one's gonna click it.
That's a good point, yeah.
Unfortunate truth.
I mean, that goes to the next point then. Naming your game.
Yeah. I think that's I think it's easy to underestimate the importance of picking the title for the game as well.
Yes. And of course, then also the cover for your game. Those two things are actually, I think, the same as a YouTube thumbnail and YouTube title. I mean, of course, it's
definitely the direct equivalent. And as you said, I think it's the same thing again, where if you have a weird title that no one can pronounce, and if you just have a I don't know, just the title, no background or anything as your capsule art, you're probably not going to get a lot of traction. But that must be something you thought of your title later on, because your title, interestingly, something I noticed, is very much tied to game mechanics in your game.
So in my previous games, I always had these weird mashup of words. For example, I had a game called Tournament, where you turn things, and I don't know, it sounds kind of cool, but if you see the word, it looks like a typo. Yeah. So I wanted to avoid this. I thought, you know what? For this game, I'm gonna have just words that actually exist, as strange as that sounds, and then make some kind of a weird contrasty decision, like faith and despair. So these is two words that have a high contrast between them. And so my hope was that this contrast would kind of evoke something in you, or at least get a little bit of your interest. And originally it was called Faith and Despair. And then a game dev friend said, well, then it says FAD, which is just a fad. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
shit. Then I called it Faith in Despair, because Faith is the main character's name as well. And she is in despair. So it kind of worked for the game. It caused a bit of confusion further down the line. Some people still called it Faith and Despair. Some said Faith of Despair. So it was not the best title as well. But yes, as you said, both of these words are the main mechanics of the game, which was not in the beginning either. In the beginning, you had health and mana.
Oh, interesting.
But at some point, I was like, wait a minute, I can use faith as the HP of the main character, and then despair as this overarching mechanic that kind of plays against you. So it kind of informed both sides. The name informed the game, and the game also informed the name.
I
sort
see.
of like that. How was it for Shroud of Gloom, though?
For my game, Shroud of Gloom, it was definitely more of a trying to describe the mechanics of the game. Now, once again, this is slightly ironic because my game has changed a lot, so it doesn't actually do it as well anymore. But as I've mentioned in previous episodes, I think, the game was originally made for Game Jam, where the theme was Safe in the Dark. And so the title, I sat down and was like, wait, I actually need a title for the game. And the way I did it was literally just, looking at the different synonyms, trying to find something that sounded kind of cool, and that explained it. So, I think it stems from something like, I started with something like hidden in darkness, or hidden in the dark, or covered by dark. And then, by browsing through different synonyms and stuff, I ended up with Shroud of Gloom, which I think sounded a little bit more fancy or whatever. Now, to be clear, I still don't think I actually don't think it's the best title. I kind of regret it in hindsight, but personally, I feel like I'm a little bit in too deep, so I'm kind of like, screw it. I just have to roll with this now.
At some point you have to stick with it. It is what it is.
After some amount of like marketing attempts and whatnot, it feels like it's a bit late to start like rebranding the entire game now. But in hindsight, I would say I don't know. Because the thing is, I think the title is kind of cool and like visually looks kind of cool, but it is, the main thing I don't like about it is that it is like a little bit tricky to say. Or like it doesn't have the best flow to it. And the words, both of which, like Shroud and Gloom, are like fairly uncommon words. Compared to if I would have called the game something like, I don't know, The Manor of Despair. Which is something that's like, or something like that. There's a lot of these.
That's the name of our bundle.
I've noticed, yeah, exactly. I've noticed a lot of these similar games will actually have it straight up like have the word manor in them, or mansion or something like that. And at times I have been thinking like, maybe I should have gone with something like that, or one of these fancy like one word titles. But I don't like, it's not something I stress about too much either. Like, I don't think my title is bad, but I think it could have been better.
Yeah, but again, the name is, I think, a big one for marketing your game. Absolutely.
I think having it actually represent the game is important. Same with the capsule. I think that's sometimes we get a bit of tunnel vision on getting names that sound cool or a capsule that looks cool, but I think both of those are in vain if it doesn't align with the game you're making.
Yeah.
There's something about having your name called Euro Truck Simulator and having a big truck on the capsule. Like, it very obviously explains what the game is, right?
Yeah, that is just, good marketing. I mean, a good product, I would say, because you get exactly what you see. It's I mean, that is a big one. Setting the correct expectations is a huge one for marketing or for a video game in general.
Yeah, just I think it's one of those things where, similar to what we said before, if your title and your capsule is straight up bad and nobody clicks on it, then anything you do with the game is kind of in vain. But I would say it goes a little bit similarly as well, where if your title and capsule attract the completely wrong audience, or people who are expecting a completely different game, then it's not really an advantage to you, even if it looks and sounds cool, because you might get people to click on it, but if they're not in your target audience, they're probably not going to wishlist the game, they're probably not going to buy it, and that's going to have a negative impact at the end of the day.
Exactly. I mean, Face in Despair should probably not be a fairy simulator. So yeah. But again, I wanted to repeat what we said earlier about you. I think you still need to be very careful not to put too much emphasis on picking the perfect name and picking the perfect thumbnail before you even have a game.
No,
I think because especially when you have already made one or two games, I think there's a trap that you can fall into where you're like, now I know everything and I can make the perfect game right from the beginning with the perfect, thumbnail and perfect title, and then I will make the game. And also, think about trailer moments again before you even start placing a block, placing a cube.
I guess there's a balance to it, right? Where maybe the way one should put it is that all of this could be good and it could have a positive impact on the development of your game, as long as the game, the product itself, doesn't actually suffer from it. Like making these cool trailer moments is maybe really good for the trailer, but if that moment itself actually has a negative impact on the game you're making, like the pacing or the progress, the story or whatever, then it probably isn't worth it.
I agree. Yes, I think you need to make a game where your taste also aligns with it. So you don't need to. Maybe you wanna make the next Vampire Survivors clone or something like that, but you actually really hate playing Vampire Survivor games. Maybe you shouldn't do it, even if it would make like monetary sense or a marketing sense, because then maybe it's easier to market. It's probably not, but it's just an example. I think you still need to, even when thinking of potential hit names and hit trailer moments and everything like that, you still need to remind yourself every now and then of what are your tastes, like what kind of game would you like to see. I think this is
I'm sorry, I'm kind of smiling here. I think
Yeah.
this is one of my controversial takes.
Okay, yeah, let's go.
I actually don't fully agree. I know it's a very common sentiment, the fact that you should be making a game that you yourself want to play. Personally, I'm not really doing that. Before I started making Shroud of Gloom, I don't really like horror games, mainly because I'm a massive coward. I'm not really a horror game player. I have also pretty much not played any proper point-and-click games before I started making this game. Looking at the genre and so on of my game, it makes no sense whatsoever why I am making this game. Now, with that being said, I do think there are some caveats to it where it's hard. At the same time, it's not like I don't like my game, and it's not like I don't think my game is good, right? Because I think it would be very hard for me to work on a game that I legitimately just think this is a bad game. In my case, I almost feel like more so throughout the development, I kind of grew to like my game. And that even goes with the genres as well, where I would say that now I am a fan of point-and-click games. Because the main disadvantage, because I do think it's fair to say that there are disadvantages about making a game that you're not the stereotypical fan of. And I think one of those is the fact that I had to do a lot more research on the genres, right? Because I wasn't as well versed with how point and click adventures tend to work and what people expect and so on. So one of the things I had to do was I need to start playing a bunch of point and click adventures so I can get an idea of what people tend to like in these games. And now, ironically, that actually made me realize that, I actually quite like these games. So I guess you could argue now that I am making a game that I would enjoy, but at the same time, it wasn't when I started making it. So, I don't know. I think the way I see it, is, and I don't know, maybe I'm the weirdo in this situation, but I think I love game development so much. Like I really enjoy like the creative aspect of it and the act of building games itself. That I don't think, for me, I don't feel like I actually have to be the target audience of my game to still enjoy making it. I'm a very detail-oriented person, and I'm very much of a perfectionist and stuff, which can have some negative aspects as well. But I don't know. Maybe I'm delusional, but I'm kind of somewhat confident that I can make a decent game even in a genre that I'm not like a huge fan of.
No, I would agree. But you still have a taste in video games, isn't that right?
Yes. I think that's fair to say. Like, because obviously I'm still like trying to make something that is a good game and that the target audience would enjoy and so on. And I put a lot of time and effort into making sure that the game does turn out as good as possible. So I definitely think that has an like that. To be clear, when I say this, I do think there's like a lot of caveats to it. But I think it's very common to go as far as to just say that you should never make a game in a genre that you don't like. That I don't necessarily agree with. I think there can be moments where, like, going outside of your comfort zone or trying something new, even if it's not like your personal dream game, can be a valuable experience and even turn out as a good game. Because in my case, like I said, I might be biased, I might be delusional, who knows? But I think my game is really good, even though this wasn't my dream game. It wasn't the game I was hoping to find myself to be able to play. It was just the game I ended up making.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That when you enjoy the process of crafting the game, I think that is a good thing still, because then you can still find motivation through that. If you didn't even enjoy the process, then that would be a disaster, a recipe for burnout, I would say.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's why it can be good as a general guideline to say that you should make a game that you would like to play, because I do assume that for most people that inherently means you are going to enjoy it more. Like that, I think is probably a fair take, but I think there are exceptions to the rule where you can make a game that you yourself maybe wouldn't even play, but as long as you have like the passion and you put in the love into the game that it deserves, I think it still can turn out to be a good game.
And again, I wanna say that you have a game sense and a taste in video games. So I still think that the outcome, like the way the game turned out, is kind of representing what you like. So because you said you don't like
Yeah.
horror games, but you do like Dark Souls, which has horror elements.
Yeah.
So you can say that maybe Shroud of Gloom exists because of your.
No, that's probably fair. And there's also a lot of things in the game which which have some form of direct correlation with my own likes and my own taste in video games. Even taking Dark Souls as an example, I think there's more inspiration from Dark Souls in my game than people would realize. Because obviously the game is very different to Dark Souls. Like no one would look at my game and go, "Oh yeah, that's kind of like Dark Souls." And for anyone who doesn't know, Dark Souls personally is one of my favorite games, specifically the first one. And I think for me, even the way I designed the layout, like the level design in my game, is directly inspired by Dark Souls. Where I think in Dark Souls 1, one of the things I really love about that game is how like interconnected the world feels. Even though it's kind of small and it's not like a true open world game per se, there's just like so many moments where you as the player will go, "Oh shit, I'm back here again." Or like you realize that the world like interconnects and so on, and you find these new shortcuts here and there. And this was something that I took a lot of inspiration from, where I tried to create a lot of those moments where the player could go, oh damn, I'm back here again. Oh, this connected to this place, and so on. And it's not something that maybe is super noticeable just watching like a trailer on the game, but yeah, I do suppose in that regard, I've still taken a lot of things that I personally liked and put into this game, even if maybe the genre itself wasn't that thing. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. So picking the genre might be a good choice for marketing, as we said, and you can still make a game outside of the genres that you like and maybe see where it goes. But we have also kind of reached the 60-minute mark. What do you say? I think this was a good episode.
I think we got through quite a lot of this. I think we got a broad overview of marketing because, as we said, this topic is so broad that we're probably going to do more episodes on this, maybe do some deep dives in the future and whatnot. But I think as a general overview, we've done quite well.
Yeah, I would say so as well, yes.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Feature Complete, where we talk about game dev and everything related to it.
Yeah, we will be back in 2 weeks. And until then, everybody have a nice and a good time.
Sounds good. Bye-bye, guys.